In today's video, I'll show you how to install and configure Cleanuparr. First of all, what is Cleanuparr? Cleanuparr is a tool for automating the cleanup of unwanted or blocked files in Sonarr, Radarr, Lidarr, and more. It supports download clients like Deluge, QBitTorrent, and Transmission. It removes incomplete or blocked downloads, updates queues, and enforces blacklists or whitelists to manage file selection. After removing blocked content, Cleanuparr can also trigger a search to replace the deleted shows and movies. As Cleanuparr is not available in the Community Apps tab right now, we need to install it manually by setting up our own custom Docker template. Let me show you how to do that. Open up a browser tab, and we're going to need to go to a GitHub repository and grab the file from there. I'm going to paste it into my browser, and I'll leave this down in the description so you can just go grab it from there. We'll go to that site and bring it up. All right, here we are on the GitHub site for the Cleanuparr Unraid files. Over here on the right side, you'll find raw. Next option over is copy raw file. The third one over is the download raw file. That's the one we want. Once you find that, go ahead and click on it, and it'll bring up a download. Mine's automatically saved to the default download location. Let me bring that up, and we'll go over there and adjust something. All right, here we are in my downloads. Newest one from today is right here, the cleanuparr.xml file. We need to rename this to my-cleanuparr.xml. So I'm going to click into there to edit it, go to the beginning. We'll change the file name to my-cleanuparr.xml. Now that that's renamed, let's go back to Unraid. All right, so on Unraid's main page, we're going to go down to the boot devices section down here. You'll find your flash drive. In front of it, you should have a browse option. Go ahead and click onto that. In here, we're going to find config, which for me is right here on the top. Click onto there, open that up. Then I'll look for plugins, open that one. Then from that list, I'm going to find Docker man, open that. And then inside of there, we're going to be looking for templates-user, which is right here. Go ahead and click onto that one. Here you'll find all the Docker container templates that you have installed. We're going to add one here. To do that, we're going to scroll to the bottom. All the way over on the right-hand side at the very bottom, we're going to find upload. Go ahead and click on upload. Now you're going to browse to wherever you downloaded your Cleanuparr XML file. For me, that was under downloads. So go there. You'll find it right here, my-cleanuparr.xml. We'll click on it once so it's highlighted, and then click on open. Now if we look through the list in Unraid here, we should find that listed. So we're going to scroll up, and it should be my-cleanuparr, alphabetical, right there. Once you verified that you have it in there, we can move on. Now that you've uploaded the Cleanuparr XML file, let's go install it. To do that, let's go up to our Docker tab. Now at the bottom of the page, we're going to look for Add Container. Once you find that, go ahead and click on it to open it up. Now it wants to know what template we want to use. We want to use the one that we just uploaded. So click on Select a Template option up at the top. Look through the list, and you should find Cleanuparr. Right there it is. Once you find Cleanuparr, click on it, and it loads up the template for you. The name, Cleanuparr is great. Scroll down. The repository that's listed in here should be correct. The ghcr.io/cleanuparr/cleanuparr:\latest. Network type, currently set to bridge. If you want this container to be part of your custom network with all your other R containers, you simply click in the field, drop down, and select your custom network. The step is optional. You can leave it on bridge or you can set it to custom. It doesn't matter either way. It's just a matter of how you want the containers to talk to each other. All right, now let's look up the web UI port, see if that's available or not. So I'm gonna go down to the bottom, find show Docker allocations, expand that so that all of the Docker containers are listed with their port numbers. Go back up to the web UI port, double click on it, hit Control F on the keyboard to open up the find feature, and it shows two results, which should be right here, 1 and 2. What we're doing when we do this is to make sure that that port number is not in use already down in your current allocations. It's not listed down there, so that one's clear. Let's go back to the top, and we can close out the find and move on. If yours is in use and you do have this port number used by something else, then what I typically do is just increment it by 1 and then go ahead and check it again. Once you find one that's clear and not in use down below, then you're good to move on. I'm going to change this back to the default since that one is available. All right, next down we've got the configuration directory. This is where the app data files are going to be stored. The default is great. I'm going to leave it alone and move on. All right, next down we've got downloads directory. We want to set this to our current download location. For me, I'm using Trash Guides folder structure, and that is going to be /mnt/user/data/torrents. You can either type your location in here, or you can just click in the field and browse to wherever that's at. So at this point, this is all there really is for the configuration side of it. So I'm going to hide Docker allocations and then hit apply. And while that's installing, why don't you come join us in Discord? I'll leave a link down in the description for you. All right, now that is done, go ahead and click on Done. Back in the list of your Docker containers, you should find Cleanuparr in the list. Once you do, if you want to auto start, click on the auto start toggle to turn that on. All right, over on the left-hand side, we're going to look for Cleanuparr in the list. We'll find it, click on its icon, drop down, and select Web UI. There you go, Cleanuparr is installed. Before we move on to the configuration, if you're getting some value from this video, do me a favor and hit that like button, and subscribe while you're down there. First thing you'll notice is you're at the dashboard. It's going to show you a list of the recent logs and the recent events. Since nothing is set up, there should be no events. Let's go over to the left-hand side. We're going to go under Settings and click on Sonarr to set up Sonarr first. First thing we find in Sonarr settings is the option for failed import max strikes. This is where you set the number of strikes that you want to set for each individual container. Now, if you read the fine print here, it says use -1 for global settings and 0 to disable. So if you don't want this one to run for some reason, you can change this to a 0. If you want it to use the global defaults, which is what I'm going to do, you leave it at -1. If you want to override that and make it just for the Sonarr instance, then you can set this number to whatever you want the strike number to be. Like I said, leaving it at -1. All right, down below, we've got the instances here. You can add multiple instances. If you had, your regular Sonarr container, and then you have one for like children's TV shows or whatever the case may be, you could set up additional instances here one at a time. I'm assuming you just have one, so we're going to go with that option. If you have more, it's just the same option. You just repeat it. It's pretty simple. To add the first one, down at the bottom, we're going to find Add Instance. We'll click onto that to get started. First thing it's asking is, do you want the Sonarr instance enabled? Yes, we do. We'll leave that checked. Next on we have name. I'm just going to name it Sonarr. If you have multiple Sonarr instances and you have another one called, Sonarr for Kids or something like that, you could just name it, something like that. Nice and simple. It's just basically so you know which one it is. All right, next field down is URL, which is going to be the URL for your container that you're setting up. So in this case, it's Sonarr. For me, mine is going to be http:// and then the IP address, so 10.0.0.11, which is the IP address for my server where Sonarr is installed. And then a colon and the port number. And the default port number for Sonarr is 8989. Next, we're going to need the API key for your Sonarr instance. And if you don't know what the URL is or the API key, let me show you where to find that at. We'll go back to our Docker containers. We'll find Sonarr in the list, which is right here under Media Automation. Click on the icon and select Web UI. Log in. And if you don't know the URL, it's going to be right up here in the URL field. You can just click on it, Control-C to copy it. You can go back to Cleanuparr and paste it in. API key, we're going to go back to Sonarr, go to Settings, then we'll go down to General. Over on the right, under Security, we'll scroll down a little bit, and you should find API key listed there. We'll click on this first icon to copy that field. We'll go back up to Cleanuparr and paste the API key in the proper spot. And then don't forget to save. There you go. You'll find your first Sonarr instance available. Like I said, if you want to add another one, you just go click on Add Instance, do the same thing, put in the instance information for your other Sonarr container. Now let's move on to Readarr. Same exact process. If you want it to be on the default global settings, you leave it at -1, go down to the bottom, click on Add Instance, give it a name. Now we need the URL. Let's go back to Unraid and open that and grab that. Find Readarr in the list, open it up, log in. URL is up here, copy that, paste it in, go back to Readarr, get the API key, which is under Settings, General, and then API key should be under Security, right there. Copy that, go back to Cleanuparr, and paste it in. Once again, make sure you save it. It's all good. Move on to Lidarr. And I'm not going to bore you with the details on these. They're exactly the same thing. You just go into Lidarr, add the instance, same stuff. Readarr, if you've got that installed, once again, same thing. They're all the same. Whisparr, if you've got a Whisparr server running, same stuff. Once you've got your R container set up, the next option down is going to be Download Clients. In there, first thing we're going to do is click on Add Client. Now it wants to know which client we want to add. In here, you've got different options. You've got options for BitTorrent, Deluge, and Transmission. To set up your download clients, you simply click on Add Client in the lower right. Make sure that we have it enabled selected, and then give it a name. Before that, let me drop down one more field and talk about client types. Here, you've got the option for QBitTorrent, Deluge, and Transmission. So whichever one you're using, You just put in the information that you want for that client. So in this case, let's say, qubit torrent is first. Let's just go with that. Name, I'm going to name it qubit torrent. Client type, we're going to select qubit torrent. You put in the host URL. Once again, if you don't know what that is, you can go back to your Unraid server, find it in the list. Right there it is. Copy the URL. Go back to Cleanuparr, paste that in. The URL base, if you are using that feature, then you'd enter that here. I'm not using it, so we're going to skip it. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know what any of these are, this little icon in the front is a little information button. You click it, and it takes you to the documentation and tells you exactly what each item is. So you'll see right here, it takes us to the URL base path. And the URL path prefix, if your download client runs behind a reverse proxy with a subpath, that's what it is. All right, we'll close out of there and go back to our setup. Username, you put in the username for your qubit torrent client. For me, that was demo, and then the password for it, your super secret password, and then hit save. Now let's say you've got Deluge as well. You can click on add client, Deluge, client type, Deluge, put in the URL for that, which mine is not running. The IP address is http:// and then the IP address for the servers 10.0.0.11. The default port number for Deluge is 8112. Once again, the URL base if you're using it. And then last option is the password. Fill that in, make sure it's enabled, and click save. And there you go. Those are both added. And if you're using transmission, it's the same thing. You just add client, change this to transmission, fill in the required information, and save it. We are done with the download client, so over on the left, next option down is cleanup. And this is where the real configuration of Cleanuparr takes place. There's several items in here. Let's just start on the top and work our way through it. First option up here is display support banner. What this does is it puts in support information for Cleanuparr. If you go back to the dashboard, you'll see it's up here. If you go back to cleanup, uncheck that. Yes, we love you. Hit save, go back to the dashboard, and you'll see that those have been removed from the top. That support option is totally up to you. If you want to have it up there, leave it selected. If you want to remove it, they give you the option to remove it, which is kind of nice. All right, next option down, we have dry run. We're going to turn this on for now. And when this is enabled, it will simulate the actions in the logs. It'll show things like deletions and other notifications. That's useful for testing without affecting the actual downloads. Highly recommend you turn that on. We'll come back later on and make sure to disable that. All right, next down, we've got maximum HTTP retries. 0 is the default. That's where I'm gonna leave it at. This is the number of times to retry a failed HTTP call. This applies when communicating with the Rs. So if it's trying to talk to, Radarr or Sonarr and it fails to communicating, this is where you're going to set the number of attempts that it tries to talk to it again. If it's not communicating, then it's probably down. So I don't see any point in hammering the thing over and over and over. If for some reason it is down, it should report it in the logs. All right, next down, we've got HTTP timeout in seconds. This is the time in seconds that it's going to call out to, let's say, Sonarr. And if it doesn't get a response in this number of seconds, 100 seconds, it'll flag it as a failed connection. This also applies to download clients and your other services that you've got running. Gonna leave it on 100 and move on. Certificate verification. This controls whether to validate SSL requests. If you don't have HTTPS or you don't care to use it, then you can just drop down and select disabled. Or if you don't want to worry about it internally and just on your local network disable it, you can select disabled for local addresses. And I think I'll use that option. All right, next down, we've got enable search. The default is enabled here. And what this does is when enabled, it's going to search for replacements after download has been removed from an R application. So once Cleanuparr has found a file that has been flagged for removal, it'll get rid of it. With this option selected, it'll trigger a search for a replacement. Now note, if you're using Huntar, then disable the setting and let Huntar handle the searching from there. Next, we've got search delay in seconds. If your searching for replacements is enabled, this setting will delay the searches by however many seconds you have listed here. And this is useful to help avoid overwhelming the indexer with too many requests at once. Next, we've got log level. If you drop down, you'll see more options available. We've got anything from verbose down to fatal. So if you have it on fatal, it's just going to show the fatal messages. If you have it on verbose, it's pretty much going to show you everything. And the way it works is the higher you go up this list, the more it's going to show you. So on fatal, it's just going to be fatal messages. Error will be fatal and errors. Warning will be fatal, errors, and warnings, so on and so forth up the list. Like I said, I'm going to leave out information and we'll move on. Next, we've got ignored downloads. Here you can set if you have anything that you want Cleanuparr to ignore, you'd enter it here. If you read down below here, it says downloads matching these patterns will be ignored. Examples would be hash, tag, category, label, tracker. So if you have certain trackers you want to ignore, you can put that in. If you have certain categories you want to ignore, you'd put in the name of the category or certain tags. And that's that section. Once you've got that all set up, go ahead and click Save. All right, now down below, let's go to Queue Cleaner Configuration. And this is going to monitor your R queues and automatically removes downloads based on the settings below. So if you want to enable this, make sure to check the box to enable the queue cleaner. The scheduling mode, you've got the basic and the advanced. The only difference here is that under basic, you can set the number and then you can choose seconds, minutes, or hours. It's set on default to 5 minutes. Under advanced, it just gives you the option to enter a custom cron expression. I think basic is fine. We'll leave it in the 5 minutes. That should be great. Next down, we've got failed import settings. Let's go ahead and expand that. First option is the number of strikes. This is the number of strikes before a failed import download is removed from the queue. So how many strikes do you want it to get before it actually removes it? In the fine print below, it says number of strikes before action is taken. 0 disables it. And the minimum has to be 3. I'm going to set it to 3 and move on. Next down, we've got ignore private. So if you're running private torrent trackers, I would enable this. Next option down, we have delete private. Once again, if you have private trackers, then I would leave this disabled because you probably have a certain ratio you need to maintain, and you're probably not going to want to delete things without that ratio being met. Next down, we've got ignored patterns. This is useful for avoiding removal of legitimate downloads that may have temporary import issues. So their example here is sample. So if you've got something that has sample in it, you can set it to ignore those. All right, next time we've got stalled download settings. Let's open that one up. And what stalled download settings are for those that have stopped downloading and show no progress. So if something's downloading and it's just kind of sitting there not doing anything, that would be considered a stalled download. And I'm sure you've probably seen stuff in your queues that have gotten, 67% done and just sits there forever. This is where you can handle that. Once again, max strikes. How many strikes do you want it to get before it takes action? 0 to disable, minimum of 3. Let's turn it on with 3. All right, next option down. I kind of like this. It's reset strikes on progress. So if something's stuck at, like I said, 67%, and it's gotten 2 strikes against it, and then all of a sudden it picks back up, and now it's at 68%, 69%, it will remove the strikes if this option is enabled, and then you're back to 0, which is kind of nice. So if you've got something that's kind of intermittent, downloads, stops, pauses, goes back and forth, this is a nice feature for that. Next option down is ignore private and delete private. I'm going to do the same settings. I'm going to ignore the private stuff and then leave delete private disabled. Next down, we've got downloading metadata settings, qubit torrent users only. We'll expand that. This is a qubit torrent only setting. So if this is something that you use, then you would set the number of strikes accordingly. Once again, 0 to disable and 3 or higher to enable it. All right, next option, slow download settings. Let's expand that. So here you can set whether or not something is considered a slow download. Slow download settings are downloads that are downloading below a specified speed threshold. So if you've got something downloading and it's coming down at 2 kilobytes or something terribly slow, you can have that automatically strike it and then remove it after however many strikes you want. Once again, I'm going to set it to 3. Next down, we've got the option to reset strikes on progress. So if the speed ramps back up, you can reset the strikes. I like that feature. I'm going to enable it. Once again, if you're using private trackers, go ahead and ignore private and then delete private. We want to leave that disabled. Scrolling down some more, this is where we set the minimum speed. This is going to be the speed in kilobytes or megabytes or gigabytes or terabytes, whatever the case may be. You enter your speed threshold here. The example is 100 kilobytes. So let's do that just like that. So whenever a download gets below this rating here, it'll get a strike. All right, next down, we've got maximum time, and this is in hours. This is the maximum time the download can take. If you've got this option set here for like 10 hours, then after that time period, it'll get removed. I'm gonna leave that on 0. Next option down, we've got ignore above size. If you've got large files that you're downloading, complete archives or something of that nature where it's terabytes, you don't want it getting removed halfway through. Their example here is 25 gigs. So let's say anything larger than 25 gigabytes is going to be ignored. So it won't get any strikes. That's the end of that section. Once you're happy with your settings, go ahead and hit save. Scrolling down, content blocker configuration. So what this does is the content blocker automatically blocks or removes downloads from your download client based on your blacklists or your whitelists, whichever one you're using. And you'd use this because it helps prevent unwanted content from being downloaded and manages content filtering across your R's applications. So if you have something that you don't want, this is where you set it up. First of all, we have to enable it. So enable content blocker, go ahead and put a check mark in there. Scheduling mode, same thing, basic or advanced. We'll leave it on the default, which is the basic, and it runs every 5 seconds. Ignore private. Once again, same thing. If you're using private trackers, you want to enable that. Delete private, you want to disable that. Next option down is Sonarr settings. Let's configure the settings for your Sonarr block list. Scroll down a little bit. Do you want to enable the Sonarr block list? Select it if you do. Easy enough. If you have a block list file or URL, you put in the list here. This is going to be either a file path location or a URL location. Once again, if you're not sure exactly what that is, the little icon in the front here, click on it. It takes you to the documentation. Scroll down a little bit and you can find what it is here, right here, block list path. So example of a file location, if you have a text file for block lists, you can point it to it there. Or if you have a URL, it's set up like that. There's different patterns that you can match. I don't have any block lists set up yet, so I'm just going to leave it alone and we're going to go back. Next option down, we've got block list type. We can either do a blacklist or a whitelist. So if you whitelist something, what it's going to do is it's going to show only the files listed here that are in that list. Only those will be allowed. If it's a blacklist, then it'd be the opposite. So anything in the blacklist, any of those listed here would be blocked. And each one of these down below, Radarr, Lidarr, Readarr, they're all the exact same thing. So if you want to enable one, you just select the files, whether it's a blacklist or whitelist. You can leave some disabled while leaving others enabled. I don't use any of these, so I'll make sure they're all disabled. And I'll move on. Next down, we've got download Cleanuparr configuration. And what this does is the download cleaner automatically removes downloads from your download client after they have finished seeding according to the rules that we're going to set up here. So this is helpful if you want to manage your disk space and help to kind of clean everything up, keep everything at the optimal level. If you do this and you enable it, then you're going to get a warning here. It's going to say to avoid affecting items that are awaiting to be imported, please ensure that your Sonarr, Radarr, and Lidarr instances have all been properly configured. Are you sure you want to proceed? If you want this feature, then you're going to choose yes, enable. Scheduling mode, we've got basic or advanced. Once again, same thing, custom cron expression or preset cron jobs. Default is to run once an hour. If we open up seeding settings, you've got the option to delete private trackers. Once again, I'm leaving that disabled. Next time we've got seeding rules. You can configure categories for automatic cleanup. So if you have certain categories you want it to monitor, you put those in here. So if you wanted to define things like Sonarr or Radarr or Lidarr, you can just click add category, put in the category name. So, Sonarr, the max ratio. What do you want the ratio to be set at? So let's say we want it to be, 2-to-1. So we'll set this to, 2. Minimum seed time. How many hours of time do you want this to be seeded? 10, whatever. Max seed time in hours. What's the maximum time that you want? So let's say we have this set for 20. Max ratio of 2. Minimum seed time of 10 hours. So at least 10 hours it's going to be available. And then maximum seed time would be 20 hours. So after 20 hours, it would remove it. Once you're good with that one, if you want to add another one, another category, for Radarr or something like that, you just click add a category and do the same thing again. I don't need either one, so I'm going to get rid of those. Next option down, we've got unlinked download settings. Go ahead and expand that. And what this does is this allows Cleanuparr to handle any torrent files that no longer have hard links. So if you've got a copy of the file in one location from Sonarr moving it, to your media location, and there's no other copies left of it, then it could be flagged for deletion. Basically, if your R's are done with the files, then it should be safe to remove them. That's what this is looking at. If you want to enable this feature, you select Enable Unlinked Downloads. Next, we've got Target Category. This is the category that the files will get moved to. Cleanuparr-Unlinked is default. So in your download client, it's going to create a new category and they would get moved to that. All right, next we've got use tag. When using qBittorrent, you can tag them rather than use categories. So if you're using qBittorrent, you can go ahead and turn that on. Next, we've got ignored root directory. So this is the root directory to ignore when it checks for unlinked downloads. And on this, you want to look at the documentation on it because it kind of explains a little bit better. Click on the little I in the front. It brings it up. And you'll see here in the documentation, ignored root directory. This is the root directory to ignore when checking for unlinked downloads. It's useful for cross-seed setups where you want to ignore hard links even though a movie is not in Readarr anymore. So if this is your pretend data structure, /data/downloads, and then torrents underneath there, the root location would be /data/downloads. This is going to depend on your setup, so just set according to whatever your file structure is. All right, let's go back to Cleanuparr and move on. All right, we've got unlinked categories. So here, you'll just put in the categories that you want checked. So for unlinked categories, you could enter things like, if you got categories for movies, you could enter that one. Let's say TV, you got that, music, whatever the case may be. Once you're happy with your settings there, go ahead and hit save, and we'll move on. Next option down, we've got notifications. Under notifications, you'll notice that Cleanuparr supports Notifier and Apprise. And to set them up, you just fill in the required details, then you select whatever events you want to be notified about. Notifier, you put in your API key, your channel ID would go here, and let's say you want to be notified of slow strikes only. You select that. If you're using Apprise, same thing. You put in the URL, the key for it, any tags, and then whatever you want to be notified about. Once again, once you're done, go ahead and hit save. And that's the end of the settings. That's pretty much it. Now you just sit back and let Cleanuparr do its thing. But if you remember, in the beginning, we had turned on the dry run option. So now you can just go to the logs and start monitoring what Cleanuparr is flagging for removal. And if you scroll down a little bit on the left, you'll find the logs and the events listed there. And on this, I would give it at least a couple of hours, or even better, a day or two. Check the logs, every now and then, make sure that it's working the way that you intend. And only after that time, I would enable Cleanuparr to actually remove any content. So once you're happy with the way that Cleanuparr is running, and it looks like it's logging the actual correct results that you want it to do, go back up to cleanup on the left, go in there, find your dry run option, deselect it, scroll down, then hit save and let Cleanuparr start running through and cleaning up the downloads. So there you have it. Cleanuparr is fully installed and set up. After some tweaking, you'll have an automated cleanup tool running on your server, freeing up your time to focus on finding more media, or better yet, set up Suggestar to automate that too. You can find that one up here. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, consider becoming a Patreon. Patreon members get early access to my videos, and they are ad and sponsor free. I'll leave a link in the description. Until then, check out Suggestar, or this one next. And I'll see you in that one.